In the world of Leica, there are these holy grail lenses worth $10, $20, $30, even $50, $60,000, more than that sometimes. But not everybody can afford them or even use them. And that's where this lens comes into play. It's an homage off one of the holy grail of 35mm lenses that Leica's ever made. The 35mm 1.4 Summilux Double Aspherical from 1988. Light Lens Lab has recreated this lens for thousands less and giving you about 98% of that look. Let's talk about it. Full disclosure, before we kick things off, Light Lens Lab did send me the titanium version for review. This does go back to them, but these are gonna be my thoughts and my thoughts only. And I will talk about what I like and what I wish was improved, because it's not gonna be a deal breaker, but it is something that you should know about. All right, so let's talk about this lens for a second. As I mentioned, this is an homage to the 1988 35mm Summilux from Leica, the Double Aspherical. And they didn't make that many of those. And obviously, since then, they have the Pre-LE, the Aspherical, close focus. They've had a variety of different Summilux versions. But it's the Double A that's gotten everybody so excited over the years, because it is not an easy lens to find. And if you do find them, they can range anywhere today from 20 to 30,000 US dollars, depending on the condition. Now, there are some mint-condition ones, which I did actually have a chance to have hands-on time at Rice Ball Photography here in Singapore. Now, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with it because it's in the store and it's a very expensive lens, but I took some sample photos and we'll talk about that later on in this video. But essentially, this lens has got that sharpness, that character in the bokeh. It's not clinical, but yet there's something to the image. And so this has been a lens that a lot of people have been wanting to have in their arsenal. And Light Lens Lab, they've talked about having a prototype for years, has finally released it. Now, I'm not too sure if there was conversations with Leica why they held off, but they finally brought it out. And optically, it doesn't disappoint. And the build quality as well too. Now, if you've never used a Light Lens Lab lens before, they're absolutely beautiful. And I think that of all the other lens manufacturers that are sort of emulating or paying homage to Leica, Light Lens Lab does it the best. I mean, a lot of their lenses are made of brass or high quality aluminum or titanium as we're having here. They really nail the feel, the look, and the way the lens performs. I wouldn't say one-to-one, because in some ways they improve on the optics of these older Leica lenses, but it's a very close rendition. And I think for a lot of you out there that are okay with using other lens manufacturers on your Leica cameras, you're going to appreciate what Light Lens Lab has done, especially with this 35 1.4. Now, this is a titanium alloy version of it, which Leica never made a titanium version of this lens. They did make a prototype in chrome, which you can find online. I saw it on eBay going for a crazy amount of money. The one that was sold in stores was black aluminum. Now, of course, in terms of the design, it's a very compact, it's a very lightweight lens. It comes to close focusing 0.7 meters, which is great. It's a 1.4 aperture up to f16, as most of the Summiluxes are. At first glance, it looks like any other Summilux until you start taking images with it. And that's when things change. Now, for those pixel peepers out there, we will jump into Lightroom in just a bit, and I will be comparing it to sample images I've taken with the original Double A at Rice Ball Photography's store. Again, they're in store, they're nothing to write home about. It's just more of a sample to kind of give you an idea of how they both lenses render. As you're seeing from these images here, and I primarily shot it with the SL3 and the Lumix S9, it is beautiful. It has that 3D pop. As I mentioned earlier, it's got character to the bokeh. It's not clinical, yet it's sharp. Well corrected, but not modern like we're seeing in lenses out of 2025. You are gonna get a little bit of flaring. There will be a little bit of maybe distortion here and there, but that's okay. You're not going to really notice it because this lens is about taking your subject, taking him, her, whatever it may be, having it pop off the frame. And that's what this lens does so beautifully. That, I mean, I've shot with other 35mm Summilux lenses and other 35 1.4 lenses, and they're good. They're all good. But there's something special about this lens that just, you're seeing it in the images. Like I take these photos of these cats, for example, and if you look at the background, it's not completely blown out, but yet there's separation. But yet you see the fine details of the fur, the eyes. This resolves a 60 megapixel SL3 beautifully. Now, of course, Light Lens Lab has made this a bit more modern for today's camera systems versus a lens that was made from 1988, rightfully so. They've still maintained the look, the feel of the original Double A, which I think for many is that quintessential Leica look that gives you the best of both worlds. Modern imaging, but at the same time character. And I say that a few times in this video because that's what this lens represents so well. But having said that, I've taken photos with a 35 oppo. Wow. Different lens, different league of pricing. It's different. Very, very modern. That's for another video for another day. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna jump into Lightroom, compare it to the original AA, pixel peep a little bit, and then we'll talk about one of the issues about this lens that I have. It's not about the optics, but it's very unfortunate considering how much care and time Light Lens Lab has put into this lens that this part of the package didn't live up to this. We'll get into that in just a bit. All right, so we are now jumping to Lightroom here. Take a look at some images, one with the Light Lens Lab and one with the Leica AA. So we've got a photo of Leon here that we took outside. Now there's gonna be a little bit difference in terms of lighting. The reason is the clouds were moving very fast that day. As we were changing lenses, it adjusted the lighting a bit. So one's gonna be a bit brighter, but it's the same exact position, everything else, okay? Same camera. So let's take a look at the image on the left-hand side here. As you can see, it's very sharp here, looks good. Not overly sharp, not like oppochromatic sharpness that you're gonna get on like, let's say 35 oppo, but it's sharp for being, you know, a lens that's 1988 thereabouts. And then on the right side here, also very sharp. Now on the right side, you're gonna notice there's a little bit more magenta, a little bit more warmth to the skin tone, a little bit more saturation versus the left-hand side, which is a little bit different on that one. Now, which is which, we're gonna find out very, very soon. But first, let's take a look at the bokeh here on the sides. Now, the bokeh is very, very similar. I would say the one on the left is a little bit smaller in this area here versus the right. But you see a little bit more onion rings going around the bokeh balls here on the right-hand side versus the left, which is a little bit smoother. As you go up to the top of the building area here, roughly the same, a little bit more harsher lines on the bokeh, a bit more green coming into play. Both of them are green, but this is a bit harsher on the right side versus the left. Moving over to the left side of the display here, as you can see, this harshness to the bokeh in terms of the lines and the detail is a little bit more pronounced on the image on the right versus the left. All right, so with that said, which image is which? Well, on the right is the Leica, and on the left is Light Lens Lab. Now, one of the telling signs, of course, is going to be that bokeh, the harshness of the bokeh, and then probably because the lens was made in 1988, maybe they were using hand-ground aspherical elements and not everything was machine-made as most lenses are made today. So that's one thing. But also one thing you're going to notice is the colors, and I mentioned this earlier. The Leica has this warmth, this a little bit more magenta to the skin tone, a bit more inviting, whereas the Light Lens Lab is a bit cooler. Has some warmth to it as well, but you're losing a little bit of that magenta. You can even see it on the shirt here too, where it's a bit more of a richer brown, where on the Light Lens Lab, it's not as rich. Now, again, these are subtle changes which can be adjusted in Lightroom or Capture One or whatever software you're using, but it's something to take note of. And this could be also, again, one lens is $30,000 thereabouts, Singapore dollars, 25,000 USD. The other is $1,500. So again, it's not going to be 100%, but if you adjust a little bit on your tint, your saturation, your warmth in Lightroom Capture One, you pretty much can replicate that, and that'll just take you a couple minutes to do so. Now let's take a look at another couple images here of Jin Hao, who is an employee at Riceball, really nice guy, and he was very kind enough to allow me to take photos of him for this test as well. So let's take a look at the images here. Okay. So let's zoom in on his face a bit here. On the left-hand side, you're going to see it's quite sharp, a little bit more magenta there. That's going to be the Leica. And on the right-hand side, it's got some magenta to it as well, but it's a little bit cooler than the left. But one thing you're going to notice is the glasses. There's a little bit more aberration here, a little bit more purple fringing or a little bit red fringing right around the reflections area here. Whereas on the Leica, it's very minimized. Now, considering this lens is from 1988 versus a lens from 2025, that's impressive. But let's look at the bokeh for a second here on each side, because just to kind of see how this all renders a second. One thing you're going to notice, again, this was really stood out to me right away, is the onion rings on the bokeh balls here, whereas on the Light Lens Lab, it's a bit smoother. Again, and look how far in I'm zooming in to see the differences between these two lenses. But we like to do that. That's what this is all about, and that's what we're doing here. So as you can see, there's a little bit of that. Moving to the left side here. Let's do that real quick here. You're going to see on the Leica, it's a little bit harsher lines on the blue lights coming down here. And you can see the green lines and the little bit of onion rings on this bokeh area here. This is a little bit messier, but a bit smoother, I guess you could say overall. But still very, very similar. Like I said, 98, 99% there, guys. I mean, we're pretty much there. The one thing that I did notice right off the bat, let's go to this Phoenix sign here real quick, is that the Phoenix sign is a little softer on the Leica versus the Light Lens Lab. You can see that by the word available now and available now. Very different here. So my guesstimation is, again, I'm not an engineer, but looking at this, is that there's more of a gradual fall off coming from the Leica versus the Light Lens Lab, which may be a little bit harsher of a fall off, just ever so slight. Again, unless you have both lenses next to each other, you're not going to notice the difference. You still saw from all the images I've been posting on this video, the 3D pop that's coming into play. And it really is a great looking lens. And again, one lens is 20,000 plus USD versus 1,500 USD. So, or maybe even less. So there's going to be a difference, but that difference is just a couple percent in my personal opinion. And that makes this Light Lens Lab very, very impressive. So now I want to talk a little bit about this lens here. Right out of the package, you get a really nice bottom cover, which is metal, and then top cover as well, which is metal. I believe it's titanium, and if you get the aluminum, it'll be aluminum, if I'm not mistaken. You get a nice UV filter as well that comes with this, and you get two hoods. You get a circular hood, and then also you have the infamous square hood. Now, one thing about this square hood, it's metal versus the Leica, which is plastic, but the Leica one actually has a cover on the front of this, where Light Lens Lab did not include that. So if you want to use this hood and looking for a cover, you'll probably have to find some sort of third-party option for that. Not too sure why they missed out on that one, because it's kind of the whole thing with that hood, but it is what it is. One of the issues I had with this hood when I first got it was the sound. It likes to rattle a lot. I called it the rattlesnake. Now, I did alleviate some of that by I tried putting some felt in there, and I took it off, and I left a little bit of the residue inside there. And that little residue there does make it a nice fit. I want to play this video for you so you get a sense of how loud the rattle was. With the Leica one, I tried that as well. There was no rattle whatsoever. And I think what Light Lens Lab did here is, obviously this is entirely metal. Inside might be a little bit of plastic, but they've got this knob here, which is metal, and it's a bit sharp. And when you're metal and everything else, it's not grabbing. I think the tolerances aren't quite there. Now, to their credit, the titanium hood, it's got a little rattle. For a lens so well made like this, it shouldn't have a rattle. This should be a little bit better in terms of its tolerances. Now, mine on the black one is worse than others out there, so this could just be an early production run. So maybe when the aluminum versions come out, because they're coming out, I believe, towards the end of January, maybe February, that maybe they'll fix that. I don't know. I did give feedback to Light Lens Lab about that, and they are aware of it. Maybe it's too late. I don't know. And also one aspect to this too is when you want to put the UV filter on this, which is great, by the way, the lens cover doesn't really stick on. So it's easy to pop off. That's a little unfortunate. Now, again, it's not a deal breaker. It does not affect the optics or the performance of the lens. But because you're getting such a beautiful package, and this is the Double A, this is the quintessential 35 millimeter lens that so many people have been wanting. You'd think that Light Lens Lab, as beautiful as they made this lens and the packaging and everything else, that they would have tested this out and gone, you know what, we can make this a bit better. Maybe they will. Maybe I just got a bad copy, but it's something that I want to point out to you just in case you do get one of these titanium versions and you notice that happening. It is what it is. As I talked about earlier in this review, I know there's a number of you out there who are not keen on third-party options when it comes to Leica. As the prices keep going up from Leica, the cameras and the lenses respectively, it is becoming a much more, it's a big investment for a lot of people. From what it was a couple of years ago to today, it's a significant investment. Maybe you want to look into a focal length that you're not too sure about. Maybe it's a 28, a 21, or a 35. Pick up something like this. Your investment isn't that much. And if you feel like, wow, I really like this focal length and I want to get a Leica lens, then this is kind of that gateway to that. Or buy the Leica lens for the focal length that you're really going to use the most. And then for others out there, look at options. I mean, again, where the prices are at with Leica right now, these are the discussions that are being had by a lot of people out there that aren't extremely wealthy. And it is what it is. It's just part of the economics of the world and where photography is at. I do hope that Leica does make a less expensive version of lenses like they used to have with the Summilux, I believe it was a 2.5, 2.8, which were more affordable and more attainable for people to get into the M system a bit more. But that's where these lenses come into play. And I would say you're going to be very happy with this. Light Lens Lab did one heck of a job. There you have it, folks. Anyway, if you like this video, like, subscribe. Thank you for the support. Greatly appreciated. And I'll chat to you all very, very soon. Bye.